Welcome back to the Better Men, Better Ball Player podcast. I'm your host, Trey Cobb. I want to thank you for joining us or returning to us here today. And for our 41st episode, good friend of mine, Coach Andy Baker from Middletown High School in Middletown, Maryland. Phenomenal coach. Coach Baker is right now the current head coach at Middletown High School. He started in 2008, became the head coach then after some time as an assistant. But he has been the football coach there. He's been helped out all throughout the program since the football program since 2001. And just being at Middletown, what I thought was a great thing after this conversation was he's been a part of 9 state championships between baseball and football. He's been a part of 9 state championships between baseball and football at Middletown High School. In 2019, they were a state finalist for baseball. 2017, that's when they won. That's when he got the state championship during a really close 2A state championship. Their classifications, it changes, just like every state, it changes from time to time. But there's this 2A that year was it was super tough. 2011, they were also state semi-finalist. There's been region championships. He's had conference championships. So a very great career. But just talking to Coach Baker, doesn't even remember those things. Those things are just a product of him with his good relationships, his structured practice, his great staff that he talks about. He talked about his great staff multiple times, and just the circle of coaches that he surrounds himself with and continues to get better and better. He surrounds himself by great people. Talked about his mentorship from Coach Wells at Frostburg, Coach Caruso, who's now at Fairmont, Mike DeSimone, and Mike Warrenfeltz, and of course Mike Franklin. Really are great mentors of him. So just wanted to, there's this one I believe was another one really looking forward to, a guy that I love to have a part of my circle. I love to be able to hang around, discuss, talk baseball with. And my goodness, we could do another one, but he gets into a ton of great information about his program, from how he has a very balanced program. He does coach football, so a lot of the times the guys are doing a lot more things on their own, but they are all in from March to May. They've got some great things that they have going on in their program, from a leadership curriculum and how he develops characters, how he holds guys accountable, and they've have most recently gotten into the Knights Crusade, which is kind of like an Omaha challenge, Anvil challenge, mental toughness, along with some character development. I think there's a character development piece in there that makes this really special as well. He touches his base. In that 2017, for those people who don't know, that 2017 when they won state championship, that team did not hit a home run all year. These guys are tough as nails at the plate. They're going to throw it well, and they're going to catch the baseball and going to make you make errors. They're going to put pressure on you. And we most times we're losing games more than winning them. And he keeps that pressure there, where guys most time they're going to lose those games, and he's going to do everything he can to get that big guy off the mound. And he touches base with a lot of those things. But we dive into a ton of other great things. And he's always willing to share information, loves talking coaches, and so feel free to reach out to them. Again, Middletown Baseball is a great follow. Go MHS Baseball on Twitter. He gives his email and gives his phone number out during the podcast. And, like I said, I cannot thank Coach Baker enough for this great conversation. We're touching base during the winter break, and it was great to get my winter break started off with a great conversation from a great coach. So enjoy this conversation with Coach Andy Baker from Middletown High School.
So 2001 is when I came to Middletown, and I immediately started football and baseball. And in football, I've bounced around from, I started assistant JV and then head JV. I went up to varsity for probably 9 or 10 years or something. And then I went down, did a year JV head coach, went back up to varsity for a year or two, back to JV. I've been bounced all, doesn't matter.
Yeah, just did whatever the program needed.
Yeah, most of those times I've, either requested to move, or Kevin said, hey, can you go down and do this? I don't care. It doesn't matter to me.
Yeah.
So,
and that was all under Lynott. Well, I guess now the new coach too.
no, I was hired by Coach Ambrose.
Oh, okay.
And when I was there, I coached for Coach Ambrose for 5-6 years. He finally retired. Then I coached for Lauren Ridenauer. He did it for 2 years. And then Coach Lynott came in and did it for 12 or something, maybe 10. And then we hired Colin, and I coached for Colin Delata for 2-3 years.
Mm-hmm.
So that's 4 head I've coached for every head coach at Middletown High School, football wise, every single one.
Nice.
I don't know if that's a claim to fame or not.
Baker, that's why I've been successful, buddy. That's right.
Well,
you got your success all over that place, man.
I'm guilty of not being able to say no a lot of times, but I was, you think about how blessed I am to be at Middletown. I wrote this down this morning. That's part of 9 state championships between football and baseball at a public school. Like,
it's awesome.
And that has nothing to do with me, but a bunch of great coaches and great families and lots of talent. But, my dad, who's still a head coach, been coaching football for about 50 years. He coached basketball for 22 years. He coached baseball for 20 some years in Pennsylvania. Never been a part of a state championship.
Oh man.
I've been in my dumbass has been in 9. I mean, isn't that crazy?
It is crazy. It's just, look, and I tell that story. Basically, that perspective is like with Franklin. Like Mike. It took Mike how long, and it was always. Yeah. I remember that year with when he was against South High with freaking Ralph Stoudemire, and Mike prepares like nobody else, and Stoudemire doesn't even practice leading up to anywhere in the playoffs, and just beats it. Like it's just. It's just the breaks of it all, but it's just, man, it's crazy. It's crazy.
Yeah, well, baseball, that's a different animal. You can be that. You got a kid like that was Minor, right? Minor and yeah, those guys. One guy can beat you. So, but just been blessed to be in Middletown, in part of a great school with high academics and good athletics all around. So. Speaking of, first of all, I wanted to just mention this too. This whole COVID thing is very difficult on a lot of people and families. And one of the underlying themes that I've talked to with a lot of the guys that I'm close with, other coaches, and we talked about Coach Lynott in our prayer group, and we talk about it's what you make of your opportunities, and what you've done with this thing, Trey, has been absolutely awesome. I know you've stepped away from the game, but technically you haven't stepped away from the game. I mean, these podcasts are so awesome, and what an opportunity. I'm guessing you probably would have you maybe always had this idea or wanted to do something like this, but as long as you were coaching, you probably weren't going to do this.
Right.
And wow, the relationships you've built with these coaches or strengthened with some of these coaches that you've already known. But then the stuff that I've gathered from just listening to the podcast has been absolutely amazing. It's like a free clinic every time I get on the treadmill. It's a free clinic. It is awesome. The knowledge that you have brought in has been what a great thing that you've done, and what a way to take advantage of your opportunity. So I just want to thank you for doing that, and I just think it's great, and I'm honored that you would have me in this group. I'm not deserving, but I'll do it anyway. But thank you.
I appreciate it, man. I appreciate it. Yeah, it was definitely something, like I said. When life presented us with things, we had to be in the house, and I'm like, yep, all right, I'm just going to go and roll with this. So, I've been fortunate, like you said, I've been blessed, just like you've been blessed with really good guys, and I've known who the good guys were, and I've always had your number in my phone and wanted to come get my butt beat by you just so I could learn a couple things and seeing what you guys do. Should have bought in a lot more of the small ball things that you guys do and things like that. Because you guys have been very successful, with that. And, but no, I've been very blessed as well. Like you said, with having some really good relationships, and I'm glad to be able to pass that on, and help other people. I think just one, there's another thing is people need to realize how good of it is over the mountain in Maryland. I truly believe we have some really good, like, I know my group, my circle of coaches, friends, they could coach anywhere. Like I told you, like, you are very deserving of this. You could coach anywhere. You choose to live in Middletown, like you could coach anywhere at any level. That's for sure. I fully believe that. Franklin, the guys that, are part of your circle, even the Warrenfeltzes, Coach Krieger, these guys could have did it. It could have did it anywhere, but their families here, they live here, and just happy to be able to bring some light to that for sure.
Yeah, and if I can just add to that, the talent of coaches in between Frederick and Washington County that I'm familiar with, and I know it extends through the whole state of the tri-state area, West Virginia, and down into Carroll County and all of Maryland. My goodness, the shore. It is absolutely amazing. I just think, to be able to send an email or pick up the phone and call Dave Sr. or Dave Jr. or Fred or any of those guys that just have so much knowledge and experience.
Mm-hmm.
Coach Eversole that you just had on, and I'm talking about the guys over the mountain your way, and you, and now AJ, and then you throw in the Frederick County guys. It is just awesome. And what's awesome about it is, Dave told me this first a long time ago, Dave Sr. He said, there's no family like your baseball family. And I'll tell you what, anytime something big happens, whether it's positive, negative, you always get a text from those guys, whether, Fred and Dave and all the guys, my circle, they always reach out. It's absolutely amazing. And we are blessed to be around such good people, good guys.
Mm-hmm. I agree. And I wasn't going to, and it was just, like I said, I got Coach Rhodes coming next. Coach Rhodes is next. And, I'll talk about a guy that you first time I met him, I'm like, that's a guy, I want his number. That's a guy I'm going to be able just to kind of chime on, and Frowny couldn't, he would also just, I didn't realize how close of a mentor Phil was to him. He's really close to him. So I can't wait to talk to him this week.
Both great guys, both have tremendous amount of knowledge, and it's really neat to see from my end to see their relationship now, coaching against each other, and how that has grown. And Phil has been a mentor. He's like a mentor I feel like he's a mentor like to all of us in Frederick County. He is so good with those kids. He builds such great relationships. He does so much. He knows the game. He's super smart. He's just awesome. And now we've become pickleball partners over COVID. Me, him, and Frowny play pickleball all the time.
Nice.
Heck of a pickleball player. So
of course
ask him about pickleball.
I will. That's good. I gotta remember that. I'm gonna put that's great. I definitely will.
But I didn't answer your question about staying in touch with the guys for COVID.
Oh yeah.
We use Google Meets, and so since we've been in school, we had, prior to when we first started school, and we did, they announced the return to play model that we did. They started with the fall, and so we have a lot of guys that play fall sports, and then we were getting ready for our spring return to play because that followed the fall. I don't know if you know that. So the order that we went was fall. Yeah. So I didn't have to have a lot of contact with them. They were in Google Meets all day long, and then they were doing other sports. So I sent some stuff out. I sent some videos out. I think we met once or twice, and then we did our return to play. And now a lot of them are doing winter sports. And then I'll start probably next week. I'm going to set up a few meetings to get ready for just to keep them abreast on what's going on as far as what the spring may look like, because that's been fluid and it's ever changing, and it's already changed a couple of times. So, there's not much we can really do in the off season. We can give them some ideas to do and that kind of thing, encourage them to play other sports and keep their grades up. But, and of course, individually through text.
Sure.
I talked to a lot of the guys, but we haven't had a lot of Zoom meetings or Google Meets. I think they're somewhat burnt out with those, and they don't want to get back on in the evening, and I don't blame them. I'd rather them be outside running around, getting some fresh air or something like that. But there's plenty of contact. between us, and obviously that'll crank up here after the first of the year.
Oh, yeah. So just thinking about it in a normal year, let's say quote unquote normal, because who knows what it'll be like in the future. When you think of like what would you be doing, and maybe at this time right now, preparing, like, the getting ready to start out the new year, going to push into March. We start March 1st. Typically in our area, we'd be lucky to get outside. I know you guys have the turf, but what does your maybe your off season look like in a normal year?
Yeah, so well, normally I'd be catching my breath from football because we'd be coming off football.
That's true. Yeah. So what do you do? Like, so there, sorry, I guess just to kind of go that route is, so you coach football, you've been there, like 20 years. So what do you, how do you help your guys during the fall when you're with football?
Yeah, there's not much. Some of those guys are.
How do you have Wayne? So does Wayne really kind of look out for those guys, maybe?
I mean, we're in contact through text and stuff like that, but some of them, we tell our guys, if you're not playing, we want you to play a fall sport. If you're not playing a fall sport, we want you, try to play some sort of fall baseball and, keep up with it. So we're in contact through, text and stuff like that. And Wayne, he may have just by chance, he might have a guy on, but recently he hasn't had many Middletown kids with the Frederick Hustlers. So really it's, a little bit of, texting how things going, what are you doing this weekend? Try to shut it down towards the end of the fall here, get some rest, get back in the weight room, lift on your own. Or if I can find somebody in the weight room, that they can get in there and lift with after school, they can, but that's difficult because there's usually teams in there, even in the fall during seasons. And then once the break hits, usually we'll start. There's been a couple years that we've got into our off season is really just weight room stuff. Mm-hmm. And there's been a couple years where we've started in December, get like the last 2 weeks of December in. And then as soon as January hits, we'll try to get in our weight room, 2 nights a week. And when I say we get in our weight room, we have some core lifts, but then we also do some footwork and agility stuff and bands, of course, lots of bands. And we'll do a bunch of core stuff. But other than that, it's really difficult because Middletown, we don't have an auxiliary gym. So we only have one gym, and you have, 2 girls basketball teams, 2 boys basketball teams, you got wrestling. You can hardly ever get in the gym. And it's even difficult to get in the weight room sometimes because you can't, our weight room, if you remember Middletown High, you're up on the balcony. Our weight room is basically part of our gym. And we're not allowed to be in there during an athletic contest, rightfully so, back there banging around while, it's right beside the concession stand while there's a basketball game on. So it's difficult. We don't get a lot of time. We don't have a lot of access. But we are very fortunate where in our community, we have a lot of very supportive families. So kids are often working out on their own. Kids that can't get in there to work out with us or they need supplemental workouts. They go all the time. They have private lessons. Some of them join gyms. And then, March 1st hits, or in February, hopefully, if we get some decent weather, we can sneak into the gym once in a while. We get a couple little throwing sessions, but as well as I do, the restrictions in Maryland are pretty tough. Mm-hmm. And even in Frederick County, we have some restrictions that supersede the state restrictions. So like we can't, only pitchers, I think, can come in and like last year, I think it was like pitchers could come in and throw, but in February, but I don't even think we could use a mound. Right. It had to be all flat work and stuff like that. So we kind of pick it up. One of your other coaches was talking about this. Might have been the guy from Georgia. Forgive me for
Adam Williams.
Forget his name, but he was talking about, how, maybe it was the coach at Auburn. I was talking about balance and how this whole shutdown time has taught him some balance, and I feel
that sounds like Butch.
Yeah, I think, that's something that we've been able to do a pretty good job at. We haven't overdone it. In Middletown, we have a lot of multi-sport athletes, so I don't think there's a major need to be doing things all the time. You want some shutdown time. Let's face it, they get sick of me and I get sick of them sometimes. So you need some separation. You need some break. We like to, kind of get in there March 1st, get after it. And we want them full tilt from March 1 to May 23rd, whatever that state final date is. And we want them all in all the time during that's a short amount of time. And we want them all in all the time. Obviously, we need to prepare in the off season for that too. But really, there's a balance there. Like Butch said, there's a balance there. You don't want to overdo it because it can be counterproductive, right?
Mm-hmm.
So obviously, if we had some more facilities, it would be a little bit easier. We'd have some more access. I'm looking forward to the upcoming years. I've just transferred. I taught middle school for the last 19 years or whatever. And so I'm now at the high school. So I'm extremely excited about doing some additional things for kids who are not playing sports in the winter.
Right.
I'll be right there in the building. I can get them in the weight room ready right after school to lift every day, 4 days a week. I'd like to do. I'm excited about some of the things that I think we can do now because when I was at the middle school, our times didn't match up. High schoolers are done at 2:15. I'm teaching till 3:00. There's a 45-minute gap there. Just the logistics don't work. You can't have kids hanging around the school for 45 minutes waiting on me unsupervised.
Right.
That's trouble. You don't want them hanging out in their cars. You don't want them driving around town because that's asking for trouble. So it's been very difficult. And then, you send them home. Do you bring them back? Can you get in the gym at nighttime? Probably not. It becomes difficult. So with my new position at the high school, it'll make things a lot simpler for some things that we can do for kids who aren't playing football or aren't wrestling in the winter, aren't playing basketball, which is not a ton of, but there's enough to get them in there and make it worthwhile. That's for sure.
Yeah. Or even for the kids that do, to provide a little opportunity, even possibly during the day where you might have a planning period and say, hey, come on here, let's do this. It could be, you could find some maybe other opportunities that way. Just being in the building is a game changer for sure.
So much so I can't express how excited I am because, one of the things that we had started last year is our leadership curriculum.
Ooh, nice.
And I'll tell you, our plan, is to be, when I'm in the building, when we're back in the building, I'm going to have those guys report to my classroom every day,
mm-hmm.
And we're going to take 15 minutes, 20 minutes, 25 minutes before we go out. And we're going to do our leadership lesson. And we're going to get mentally ready for our practice that day, what we need to accomplish. And I'm going to turn them loose. I'll meet them on the field. And what a great way to, one, build relationships, and two, teach them their character and leadership stuff. That's stuff that I couldn't do while I was at the middle school. I mean, you've experienced it's extremely difficult when, thank goodness I've been blessed all these years to have some amazing assistant coaches who were willing to start my practice and get going. So kids didn't have to, like I said before, so they didn't have to wait around for 45 minutes. That can create some bad situations. So I would always try to get a coach who could be there maybe and get started at 2:45. So they have basically 30 minutes from time bell rings, get their stuff, get changed, get down there and on the line at 2:45. And then I'm jumping in there at about 3:15 till I get over there. That's really difficult. Because the part that I really struggled with all these years was it's hard to get in there and really build relationships because practice has already started. By the time I'm getting there, we're doing rundowns and we're going straight to first and thirds. Then we're going to the cage or whatever. We're breaking down defensively. You miss that time at the beginning of practice while you're getting things ready. They're helping you set up. where you can build relationships and you can talk to them about their day and that kind of thing. It was tough. I never really got much of a chance to do that. And now that I'm at the high school, it'll provide such better opportunities for that.
And it's amazing for me. Like I hear those things, right? And knowing just knowing you and knowing the kind of person and the kind of coach that you are, for you to say that you've had a hard time doing that, but at the same time, you've still been able to develop a lot of really good relationships, and you guys have been really good, and you can tell people really love you. Like, you're only going to now create an even be even better. Like, that's what's incredible to me, because I tell you what, like because I felt that too. So our thing was, that was another part of, like you said, why I started Leadership Council, because that just gave us a time to just talk and bring these things together. Here's what the week looks like. How's your day going? What are your goals like? Like, let's talk about things that's helping you right now as a person. So yeah, those things were definitely things that, I mean, my goodness, your guys are going to be, they're just very fortunate. They're going to be very fortunate to do something like that with you, Coach. That's for sure.
Yeah, well, I'm excited about that.
That's going to be awesome. So let's get into that, man. So have you thought through the leadership curriculum? Like, you want to touch when I get into that?
So yeah, I could touch on that briefly. We had started last year this program that Coach Lynott shared with me, and it's called Character Development and Leadership. And I think it's a guy that Coach Lynott had heard at a conference. It might have been a USA football conference. And Coach Lynott actually I've kind of brought him on staff. Once he got out of football, I reined him in. He's never played baseball before.
Nice.
And I said, you need to coach with us. And he said, what are you talking about? I can't coach baseball. I said, no, you have so much to offer. So we brainstormed, and I got him into being our basically, we called him our character coach.
Yeah.
And so the last couple years, he was doing this, kind of writing his own curriculum. I would have him, it was twofold, because there was always that 45-minute gap during the day at the end of the school day when kids didn't have anything to do while I was trying to get over to the middle school. And so to alleviate some pressure off of my assistants, I said, Kevin will take them 2 days a week, and he'll put them in a classroom for 25 minutes, and he'll go over leadership lessons with them. And he's done an amazing job, and he knows all the kids because he's in the school when it's easy for him. He loves that stuff, super good at it. And then he saw this curriculum developed USA Football, and I think they were endorsing it. So we bought it. I think it was a couple $100. We were fortunate enough to buy it. And what happens is, it's an app that we all get on our phones. Coaches have the administrative app, and then the kids all have their app. And there's basically like a small reading or a scenario or a video, and then there are questions, and they have to respond to a thread. I mean, there's different ways you can do it, but that's how we had been using it. Mm-hmm. Again, I kind of had to do it remotely, and that fit our needs perfectly, because again, when I get to practice at 3:15, it started. Do I want to stop practice and really, sit them down for 20 minutes to talk about a leadership thing? Probably not the best way to run your practice. So we kind of did it remotely. They could do it in the evenings. I would send out a lesson, that night, and I'd say, okay, you have to respond by tomorrow, 4:00 or something like that. And then the other thing that we were doing was, and this was the plan, was we would do it every bus ride. Mm-hmm. I would blast something out. And so unfortunately, we had maybe 2 bus rides last year. We had a bus ride to Frederick High, and the day we got canceled at 5:00, we were at Catoctin when we got the news. We were scrimmaging, Coach Franklin and his group. And but on the bus ride, that's what we were going to do every game, because they all got their AirPods in.
Yep.
They all got their phones.
Yep.
And usually they're doing stuff on their phones that I'm not too thrilled about. Like, they're not really thinking about the game. So you want to let them be kids, but I'm like, hey, this is great. They can be on their phones. I can blast it out. We're all kind of doing the same thing here. And man, our kids did amazing stuff with it. Just the stories that they would write about relationships with their grandfathers or so-and-so, it was just awesome. And then it kind of got shut down. So we'll use that again next year. And what I'll do is, instead of doing it remotely, like I said, I'll pull those into the classroom for that 20 minutes after school, where we can do a lesson. I got the board, and, we can probably, take it a little bit deeper, a little bit further. So it's just a good thing I think kids need. I don't think they can get enough of character and leadership stuff in today's. I mean, that at the end of the day, that's what we're all trying to build, good men, just like this podcast. We're trying to make these guys good, productive citizens, husbands, workers, leaders. We want them to have good leadership qualities. So expose them to as much as we possibly can.
Absolutely. No, there's never enough. That's for sure. I think that's just like you mentioned that at the beginning of the podcast about just taking advantage of opportunities. And here it is. We got a bus ride. We're sitting down. We're looking at our phones. Well, let's go. And I think, like, to your point too, it's like, look, I don't ask you to do, like, we talk about being all in March to May. And here's all part of it. We're going to take advantage of every opportunity we can. So I think you're just kind of, that's just, living it. So it's awesome. It's awesome. So, and it's much better to be in that kind of mindset before who knows what else they're looking at on their phones.
Yeah, right. Exactly.
That's awesome. So, and then also, so you mentioned a little bit of practice and saying like how practice, like, oh, this wouldn't be very good. So it seems like you really think through a lot of practice, and knowing the kind of coach that you are. I know that you're very detailed and you're a teacher. So practice and that kind of thing is important to you. So, run us through a good practice. Run us through like the things you think about with practice, when practice is over, what you guys might need the next time. It sounds like, is it always rundowns, first and thirds? Like, is that pretty structured? Is it always like that? Or is that kind of as needed?
Yeah. So we, every day, well, it all starts with, having a plan and making sure all the coaches that are there know your plan. And so I will send out, like, that morning, I'll send out a Google Doc. I'll share it with all the coaches. I'll take a picture of the Google Doc and text it to them. And I will usually touch base with them, through text or something. But I'll also print out hard copies so they have when they get there. So everybody's on board. We know what time we're doing what, and so on and so forth. I think that's really important. I've been an assistant coach on many teams, going to practice and not having a plan and not sure what we're doing. That can be frustrating. When a coach says, hey, I want you to work with the catchers today. Oh, okay. Well, what if I don't know anything about catchers? So it's nice to have a plan and guys can be prepared. So, and that makes your practice go smooth. Everybody's on the same page, but we will obviously, we'll do our bands, dynamic warm up, and get a good long toss in every day. We'll do our rundowns. We'll go straight to rundowns usually. And then we'll do, we always do defense and offense every day at Middletown. So I know some coaches, separate them from day to day, but we'll do a little bit of both every single day. And you've been to Middletown. We normally share the field with JV. So we got one field there, but we have a nice, hitting area with the cage and hitting station. So normally in that practice plan, we'll have, I'll call Coach Klein and say, hey, you want the field first, or you want the field second, or does it matter? And usually doesn't matter. So we'll flip flop days. We'll get on the field first and do our defense out there as a varsity program, and then, or varsity team. And then while that's going on, JVs will be hitting over in the cages and stations, groups, small groups. We try to make everything small groups. That's where the best instruction is being delivered and received. And we also have that field right up above. It's a practice soccer field right above the baseball field, which is available for use most of the time, which helps out. So, and then what happens is we'll break down outfielders, infielders, and then I'll usually take pitchers to the bullpens and get their work in. Or the last 2 years, 3 years, I've really made a push to try to not leave out our catchers. So if I don't have pitchers, I'll take catchers. I think catchers, high school staff, we don't have people beating down the door to coach, and it's hard to find. And catchers get, they just get kind of forgotten, and they're like, oh, get the gear on, go catch this guy in the bullpen. And, they need some attention and some love too. So the last couple of years, I've gotten a chance to, spend some time with the catchers, and I make a point to do that. I think obviously we all know pitchers are the number one priority. They have to get their stuff in, but catchers are probably your next most important guy. So anyway, once we get our defensive work done, then we flip flop. We'll get off, we'll go to the cages, JVs will come on, and we'll break down, and we'll usually have different stations and a little bit of live hitting in the cage. But in those stations, we'll do different things, but we almost always have some sort of two-strike approach, hitting station, whatever. Always have a bunt station or two, work on different locations, hitting locations or certain techniques, stuff like that. I'm just breaking it down. And then, we're in and out about 2 hours. So, and it will wrap up. Go ahead.
Yeah, I was thinking like with your two-strike approach, because you guys fight, man. So what do you love? Like, what would say what's the best way you'd like to teach that?
So we make, we basically, you have to buy in. It's not optional. Your two-strike approach is not optional at Middletown High School. We believed in this, and we know it works, and we've seen it. So we asked them to really change their approach mentally. Tell them, we go over different situations, different counts, what we're looking for, what we're trying to do. If there's guys on base, what the score is. Try to educate them on all of those things that they may or may not be thinking about. A lot of high school guys are thinking about, I'm just trying to get a hit, and they're not trying to think big picture. So then we also require them a few physical changes. We like to have them get up in the box, up on the plate, get them up on the plate a little bit closer. We get them up on the bat a little bit, okay, which, choking up. I tell them at a minimum of an inch up on the bat. Some guys don't like to choke up, but you need to give me at least an inch. And then we kind of open up our hips and our shoulders just a touch, and we give up a little bit of power for the ability to see it better, be shorter to it, and put it in play. And we've had a lot of success with that. Guys learn that they can still really, really hit the ball almost as hard, if not sometimes as hard, with a two-strike approach, and they will taking a big hack. Widen out. We suggest that they widen out, shorten up their stride a little bit. Some guys will and some guys won't. Connor Myers, who is still playing for the Cubs. I remember him telling me his junior year, after about, a week and a half of working on our two-strike approach, which was kind of new to him at the time. He asked me one day, he said, "Coach, can I hit like that all the time?" And I said, "Absolutely. He said, "I think I'm better like that." And I said, "Well, if you're more comfortable, and I think, he made some adjustments that weren't drastic, and we're not asking for anything drastic, but for whatever reason, I think he widened out and felt a little more comfortable.
Yeah.
And maybe his focus was a little bit better. So, and sometimes we'll have to, there's times where we go to Catoctin or a guy like that, see Mike's pictures, because he's loaded with guys up there.
Mm-hmm.
Or you've had a few that we've seen that you have to go into the game. Sometimes we'll go into the beginning, into the first inning with a two-strike approach. If we got a big arm on the mound and we know that we're probably overmatched, we're going into the box 0-0 with a two-strike account, or with a two-strike approach. Sorry.
Yeah.
And and it's not as drastic as it sounds. You're only talking about some minor adjustments. And really probably what the kids learn is that your mental focus is heightened, and it probably helps you more so than your physical adjustments.
Absolutely.
Yeah. So
Like I say, I love how you say when you come into a big arm, because like you said, it starts with a mental thing. Because you already think this guy's beating you, you're done anyways.
yeah, it gives them an angle that they might believe in, and it helps them going into the game, so they really do believe. And by the way, everything that you hear on my end is usually stolen or taken from somebody else. None of this stuff has been drummed up by me for sure. And Mike Warrenfeltz, who is a tremendous baseball mind, who I still talk to today, who I coached for here back in the mid 2000s, mid to early 2000s, I guess. But he taught me the two-strike approach. Yeah.
That's awesome.
For our program.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it definitely makes you tough. So speaking of that, so the two-strikes approach, we know you guys are tough. So coming in 2017, when you guys won the whole thing, state champion, you didn't hit a single home run, not a single home run all year, right? And so beyond the two-strike approach, would you say like was that one of the biggest factors of that, just not being able to get out, like always being able to put pressure on guys? Was it mostly just dominant pitching? I knew you guys really fielded it well there. And what was, how do you get through a whole season not in a home run and still being able to compete at the highest level like you did in a really hard 2A class like that? I fully believe. I think the 2A class could be the toughest one in the state.
Yeah, I agree. There's been a couple of years there where it has been arguably the toughest in the state. Kind of bounces around with new classifications and so on and so forth. But to your question, I laugh when you ask, because it starts with good pitching. Because if you have good pitching, you have good arms, you're going to be in ball games. And that year, we didn't have like the one dominant guy that when you put out there, like it was a for sure win. But we had 4 guys that you could put out there that you knew you had a shot. So it started with that, but really the two-strike approach was a major part of our game. We had good speed, so we could put it on the ground and put pressure on teams by doing that. And they were so scrappy and just tough, just relentless at the plate. I've had some people follow up that state finals game against Falston. Our catcher, Connor Stevens, I think it was the 3rd inning, and their starter was still in, big kid, strong kid, and got a lot of good movement on the ball, and was giving us some difficulties. And Connor had like an 11-pitch strikeout. It was the kid got to like 0-2, and Connor just kept fouling balls off, and you could see, and it was the 3rd out of the inning, and he eventually struck out, but you could see the frustration from the pitcher. Like, he got ahead of this kid 0-2, and then he wasted 8 more pitches. It took him 8 more pitches to finish the guy off. Well, that's a lot, when you at the end of the game, 8 pitches is a lot. So you could see mentally what it did to that pitcher. And so I think when he came out the next inning and we got to the top of the order, he wasn't the same. And they had to make a move soon after that. So it does a lot more than what you think, just initially, like, okay, they're trying to put the ball in play and run, whatever. But there's a lot more to it. The battle, the wear and tear that you put on the pitcher is absolutely, I don't know. It's pretty intense what it can do to you. You've probably pitched at some point in your life, and you've seen pitchers get frustrated. But when you have a 9 guys battling, just fouling your best pitches off, you're 0-2 and you go low and away, and this kid's nipping it back into the fence. And then he pulls one down the line, and then you throw 2 balls, and now it's 2-2, and you're mad. You're winning at that point. you're winning at that point, right?
Yeah, no, I agree. It's tough. It's tough. And then you're a dog fight. And like I said, just the mental focus that you've got to put in for those extra pitches. And now you have the pitch count too. So really, when you're fighting those guys off, you're just allowing the pitch count to just go and go and grow. And then he's not going to be able to go the whole game.
Exactly. And that's, I didn't even bring that up, but that's the other thing, you know, you take that approach into a big game, or I'm sorry, a game with a big arm, you try to get the pitch count up. And, you know, let's face it, you know, you hate telling your guys, hey, this kid's better than us. But at the end of the day, what you're really trying to tell them is our chances are better if he's not on the mound.
That's right.
I mean, our chances are better if they got somebody else out there. So
Right,
I'm not saying we can't beat him, but the sooner he gets off the mound, the better our chances are, right?
Absolutely.
And that's how you got to look at it. You know, Mike and I talk about one of the games that really, really did wonders for our program was in the 12, maybe. We faced the late, great Alex Kennedy. His junior year had been dominant. I don't know if he gave up a run.
Yeah.
We played him in the playoffs, and going into we had to play at Frederick High. We couldn't play at Mike's field or our field or something. And he was just dominant. But we took that 2-strike approach in and fouled a bunch of, you know, and we got his pitch count up, and then he got off the mound and we were able to squeeze out victory, you know. And you know what, to beat a Mike Franklin team, especially with Alex Kennedy on the mound, holy smokes.
That team was
so there's been different times, but that really, I guess what I'm trying to say is that was great for our program because the people that could see it, and was proof that it really, really, really did work. You know, really did work. So it can equalize things a little bit when you're facing a dominant pitcher.
For sure. Like, I mean, so I know you said about dominant pitching as well. So if you switch gears a little bit to like, so are most of the pitching work that you're doing is just during that defensive time when you're pulling guys in the pen? Is that the biggest instruction that you'll get? And are you basically the only one that works with the pitchers?
Yeah. So, you know, when I was really young and dumb, I was so into planning a practice and trying to figure out how we were going to do things and cover everything. You know, my dad told me for years that, you know, nothing else really matters other than your pitchers. So, and it
like
took
Fred Krieger. Fred Krieger says the same thing. I talked so much practice with him, and it's like, did you do anything else besides pitching? No,
right.
He didn't. They'll
Right.
hit on their own.
Right. You know, he would, you know, I would talk about my shortstop or something, and he would say, well, your shortstop doesn't matter if you got the right guy on the mound. He's right. But so anyway, you know, I didn't spend near enough time with pitchers. So now that is the time. So when we do our defense, and sometimes if it runs over, if I don't get everybody in who has to throw a bullpen that day, I might take some during our hitting stations and do our bullpen work there. But, you know, even sometimes we'll do team flat work. I guess to answer your question, there will be times, and this came from Fred, you know, I'll just say, you know, partner up. If you can, partner up with somebody who's not a pitcher. And if you are a pitcher, if you're both pitchers, that's okay. And we'll do, you know, build a strike or something. We'll start at, you know, 40 feet, go to 50 feet, go to 60 feet, and just work mechanics. And the guy on the other end is down, no equipment on, you know, just being a catcher. We're not throwing it hard. You know, we're just working on mechanics. And that'll be a team thing. And sometimes I'll say, okay, well, if you're not a pitcher, you might be now. And you never know. You never know when you're going to be called upon to maybe pitch. And maybe you are a pitcher and you don't know it. And maybe your summer team's going to need you to pitch or whatever. So you can always get stuff out of it, you know, working on your balance and strength and stuff like that. So sometimes we'll do, you know, team stuff like that, but most of it comes during our defensive breakdown. And we do bullpens and, you know, might work on other pitches or experiment a little bit with some grips and stuff like that.
Yeah, I got that. Builder strike definitely something I took from Fred as well. That's
Yeah.
definitely a great drill, and very, very. I love the competitiveness of it as well. Trying to get through. We'd always just try to do 3 strikes in a row. And how many pitches did it take you to do that, and before you got back to the next one. So we would compete a little bit with that, and yeah, I mean it was just a classic Coach Krieger move for sure.
And it's extreme fundamental stuff. It's nothing, revolutionary. It's simple, repetition, not getting extremely technical with guys, let them be comfortable. Hopefully they're balanced, and try to perfect their craft.
Mm-hmm. No, that's great. That's great stuff. Oh man. So I mean, like, I see, you do, so, even part of like the practice plan you sent me, and looking at that, well, like, will you scrimmaging with live pitchers? Like, so you've talked about how you'll break in half and half. Like, will part of your on the field stuff, might that be like maybe a scrimmage or an inter squad, and that's where your pitchers are just actually throw live? Do you try to have them throw live a good bit? Is that pretty much planned all the time? If they're going to throw bullpen live, they're going to throw it to hitters?
Not we will, playing 3 games in a week.
Yeah.
We usually don't have enough pitchers that we need to throw live, like when we're scrimmaging or doing situations on the field. Normally, if we do that kind of stuff, be a coach throw or off of a tee, or we'll just be hitting fungos with runners on base and stuff like that. At a 2A school, as at a 1A school, you're not blessed with tons of arms, so you're normally you normally don't need them unless there is a gap between like the end of your regular season going into playoffs or your preseason stuff. But normally, once we get going 3 days a week, we don't have enough arms to really, make that work. So most of our stuff on the field defensively, we'll do individual stuff, and then we'll do some team stuff. After we're done with our individuals, we'll just go to situations, things that we talked about as a staff that we may need to work on specifically for that day, or something came up, we had a blunder, made a bad decision with a guy on second or something like that, and go over a situation that we didn't suspect was going to arise, but it did, and however the season dictates, really.
Yep. Yeah, that's good. That's definitely good. It's smart, man. So that's just taking, I guess, what your lessons learned from the game and seeing what you need to go from there.
Yeah, and so like after each game, each practice, usually Coach Maine and Kevin Murphy and Brandon, when he's with us and not with the JVs, Coach McCann, they are tremendous coaches. I have a great staff. I'm completely blessed. After the game, they'll say, hey, tomorrow practice, put this on the plan. We need to do this, boom. Or, hey, we need to work on, runners at second with no outs, a ground ball to short, what we're doing, tags, stuff like that. Stuff that we see in a game that we may not think about putting in the plan on a normal day, that you just forget about. There's so many situations in the game of baseball. My mind doesn't have the capacity to keep up with it all each time. It's not like Bob Wells at Frostburg, who I've learned a great deal of information from, can pull out any situation, anytime, any possible. He knows every possible scenario on the baseball field, which is amazing.
Yeah, it's like Lowry Senior's like that.
Yeah, and I can't do that. So I rely on a great staff to, tell me what to do, and I script it up and we implement it the next day.
Yeah.
Simple.
Yeah, it's good. It's awesome, man. So, and part of that thing too, I love what you said, that Knights Crusade, man. Let's get into the Knights Crusade, and I think that's something that's your program is I think could hang your hat on as well, man. Talk to us a little about the Knights Crusade.
Yeah, so I've had a lot of your guests talk about culture and that word being thrown around in the programs, and so I think it is important that your program does have a culture. And so a few years back, now, I guess, again, Coach Lynott was at USA Football. He works for USA Football.
Okay.
He was a master trainer, and now he's up above that. He's one of their, I don't know, regional guys or something. But he travels the country, meeting with coaches, doing clinics with coaches all over the country, heads up blocking, heads up tackling, all that stuff, leadership stuff. He was at their convention in, I think it was New Orleans a couple years ago. And there was a guy there who was presenting about a Navy SEAL workout and how he would come in and do a weekend with your team or your organization. And you had to have water and sand, and you spent the night. It was 24 hours or something like that. And it was a Navy SEAL workout, and it was to build mental toughness and character. So he came back and he was pitching this to me, and we were going back and forth, and it's super expensive. And we don't have those kinds of funds. We don't raise that kind of money. And we were brainstorming. And then I think, he or Coach Murphy, I pitched it to him, and somebody said, wow, we can do that on our own,
Mm-hmm.
And I said, man, that's a great idea. So we started brainstorming things that we could do, activities that we could do, and so on and so forth. And so we came up with a name. It's called the Knights Crusade. For those who don't know, we're the Middletown Knights, Middletown High School. And what we do is, after our tryouts are over, the first Saturday that our tryouts are over with, we do, it's basically a small sort of it's a Marine workout, because that was the other thing. Your local, for those of you who are in the schools, that your local Marine and Army recruiters are in the schools all the time, and they're always looking to work with kids.
Okay.
And so then we said, well, this would be a great idea. It's a great way for them to come in and work with kids. So we reached out to the local recruiter, and they were all in, super excited. So we met, we came up with a bunch of events, activities, and we decided that we would meet at 4:30 a.m. on the Saturday morning. Of course, in the Northeast here, it's freezing cold, and March 16th or whatever, it's going to be freezing cold. The wind's going to be blowing.
So, yeah.
And so we just put him through about, I don't know, I think we had like maybe 12, maybe not even that, maybe 8 to 12 pretty grueling exercises, physical, challenged their physical toughness and their mental toughness. And between each one, the group of Marines that helped us, of course, they're there. And between each one, they pull the group together and they talk about some sort of leadership skill or quality, I should say. And, so he might pull everybody together and talk about selflessness, and the activity that you just completed. You had to hold your partner up for so long, in a chain, or, some of those events that, a lot of team building activities that people have done, and talk about what that means and how that fits amongst our team and how we're relying on one another and so on and so forth. So they were getting the physical piece of it. They were getting leadership. They were getting mental toughness. We were challenging them to reach different heights that they had never gone to before. And some of these guys, beginning of our football season, we do some pretty grueling stuff, and it challenges guys. But some of these guys who've never played football, who are baseball only guys, have never experienced anything like this.
Right.
And it's great, because I've had a couple kids come up to me afterwards, and they were like, Coach, I've never, ever experienced anything like that my entire life. Thank you. Because I didn't know I could do that. And the other thing is, we've only had 2 years now. We've only done it for 2 years, but from some of these guys who were like 11th graders, to see them where they grew from an 11th grader who'd never had anything like this presented to them, and then accomplishing it in 11th grade, coming back as a 12th grader, knowing that they can get through it, what a difference. What a confidence booster it was. I mean, they were just like a different person when they went through this, and they were leading some of the younger guys who didn't think they could get through it. They were helping them, like, look, I was right there with you last year. I know you can get through this. You're going to be fine. They're pumping them up along the way. It lasts for about an hour, hour and a half, 2 hours. And then we go in, some parents, we're blessed to have some great parents. They cook a big hot breakfast for us in the cafeteria. We go in, we sit down, and we, talk about our experience, and the Marines are there with us, and they sit and eat with us and enjoy some fellowship and good food, and talk about how old we are or how tough we are and that kind of thing. It is just a great way to start the year.
Mm-hmm.
And we also put them into 3 teams. Selflessness. Put me on the spot. I have to go back and look. But we use the Marine, the core values of the Marine, and we pick out some of those qualities and we put them on teams. And they're in 3 different colored shirts. So I think this one is, in fact, this might be, is that selflessness?
Yep, it is.
Yeah. So we put them in an orange shirt, a white shirt, or a black shirt, and they all have a different name on the back, and that's their team. We try to split them up evenly, physically, and they compete through some stuff. So it's really cool. I wasn't sure how it would go when we first pitched it to the team. I kind of surprised them, and we pumped it. They got so excited about it, and they bought in right away, and it's really been a great thing. And so after we did it the first year, guys like Luke Pryor and those guys who went off to college, at the beginning of March, they're texting me like, Coach, I think I can make it back from Mount St. Mary's for the Knights Crusade. Can I participate?
Yeah.
And I'm like, but it was really cool that they had a great experience. And that's what we're trying to do, provide a good experience for them and put them through something that, so 10 years down the road, when they're faced with a difficult challenge, whether it's physically or mentally, maybe they've been there before and they know they can get through it now.
Amen. Oh, that's awesome. I totally agree. And then, so I know that's not what it's about too, but do you have like a trophy? Is there, like, I know some guys do like the anvil and they put their name on it. Is there anything like where are you thinking in terms of that? Like, were you part of the Night Crusade team or something like that?
So we don't have a trophy. We have, obviously they get to keep their shirt and, and they get kind of bragging rights, but I have not come up with a belt or a trophy or anything like that yet. But that's something, I've heard a lot of your coaches talk about, and, to incentivize things. A lot of your guests have used those. So I'm trying to think about different ways I can incorporate that kind of stuff into our program more, but that's certainly, would be a good way to do it. I think that would be cool. Maybe put their names on a trophy that gets passed around year to year or something like that. Would be cool.
Yeah. I guess let's see if, like I said, I think it all depends on your program best and know what your guys need, and you know what the big picture is of that. So, yeah, man, that's phenomenal. So, and then I guess just one other clarifying thing for me was, you have that part of your practice plan. So at the end of your practice plan, you said Knights Crusade. Is that just something you just put on there, or is that something do you retouch that during practice during the year?
Yeah. So sorry about that. I just happened to, I just went into one of my folders.
Yeah.
Picked out a practice plan, and that happened to be Saturday, March 9th. And at the bottom on my practice plan, that little section there are things that I need to talk to the guys about. Okay. So those are things after we clean up the field, I pull everybody back together, leave it better than you found it. These are the things on my list that I need to talk to you about. And one, I was going to talk to them about the Knights Crusade because I don't think I had introduced it to them yet. So.
Oh, okay. I didn't know if it was like something reoccurring, like maybe it was part of that, leadership saying, remember we did this, or, this lesson here. I didn't know if there was anything that you kind of like woven through the year.
Yeah. So, no, those were just things that I, at the end of every practice, reminders, what we're wearing tomorrow, that kind of thing.
Yeah.
But now that you say that though, it does come up through the year. And that's one of the things. There's been, over the past 2 years, a year and a half, there's been times that I've gone out to the mound and been like, look, the wheels are falling off, But listen, you've been through more difficult times than this. Remember at 4:30 in the morning when you were out there flipping tires, by yourself, and I said, it's going to be okay because we've been through some tougher times than this. So, hang in there. Let's, flip the switch, get this thing turned around. So it does come up through the year if that was your kind of where
Yeah.
you were going with it, I think. Yeah,
Yeah,
it
that's
does.
for sure. I'm sure it definitely gives you some things to hang on to and get guys to get in. Like you said, just flip the switch. But man, this has just been incredible, man. I know we're almost an hour and a half into it since we've been talking, but if there's anybody like if they want to touch base with you a little bit more and touch base about your detailed practice plans and your night crusade and all the great things you're doing, what's the best way for someone to reach out to you and get that information?
Sure. They can shoot me an email at my school email, which is andrew.baker@fcps.org.
Cool. Yeah, that'd be awesome. And you
And
guys are on
certainly
Twitter too,
can,
right? You guys are on Twitter, aren't you?
yes. It's at Go MHS Baseball.
Go MHS Baseball. Yeah, I think it's what you're. Definitely a good follow for sure.
And yeah, and I can certainly share my cell phone number if need be, anytime. I'll throw it out there: 301-606-3615. Those guys, it's just interesting to hear those guys in the South and how it's full time down there, and they're doing things that are way beyond what we can do in Maryland, which is amazing. But
it's just the capabilities that the opportunities they have to do that. Where even for me, like another thing is I'm open. This maybe falls onto some people, the decision makers in our state too, and saying, like, look at what's happening in all the other places. Even for Lowry in Jefferson, you're playing nearly twice the amount of games. And how comes no one has lights? And there's just different things that when you talk to other coaches and they're like, this is ridiculous. It's amazing. It's ridiculous. Yeah. Like, it's just like, how in the world are you doing those things? And like Butch Chafin would say, like, there are just great coaches that will just be in bad situations, and just given an opportunity to go coach or something like that would be, they would blow up. They would just because, that's it. Like I said, that's me. That's been a lot of this, that what I've enjoyed that to say, like, here's Andy Baker. Like, this guy could coach. If you put him in Georgia, good Lord, you would know what this, that'd be the thing. Mike Franklin, you put these guys, like all these guys that I'm like, yeah, these guys could do it. They could do it anywhere, and they just happen to live there where their family's from and they love it. And it's amazing the opportunity, the differences of the states and what they're able to do from a public school standpoint.
Yeah. So I don't know that I have much to offer, but if I can help anybody, I'd certainly be glad to.
Yeah. But this has been awesome, man. I knew it was great. I was looking forward to it. I'm glad we finally, I think it's been like a month now trying to say, like, hey, what are we doing this? But man, it's been an absolute pleasure, buddy. It's been awesome. Again, thank you so much, man, for taking the time this morning.
Well, thank you. Like I said earlier, thank you for doing this. What you're doing for all of us is great. We're all learning. It's all part of the process. And I've taken so much already just from the short time you've been doing this, and you are certainly making the most of an opportunity. It's great. It's absolutely great. Keep on doing it, man, because I'll be listening.
I appreciate it, man. I appreciate it. So yeah, as long as I got people listening, we'll do it, man. If there's a need there, we're gonna fill it.
Yeah, I've already shared. I just had a coaches meeting 2 weeks ago, and I was like, you guys got free clinics right here. We're taking stuff, buying stuff from some of the stuff that we've already heard. I'm like, you guys got to listen to this, get on board and pick and choose and whatever. You don't have time to catch up on all of them, but it's great stuff. So keep it up.
Coach Andy Baker from Middletown High School, just killing it. Really enjoyed the conversation. A guy that I've been able to talk baseball with, not as much as what I'd like to, but really respect him from a distance. He runs a great program. They're all about lessons and creating better men in his program. And I know he takes that job very seriously, the responsibility that he has to his players, to the people in his program, to create a great experience, let alone for them to be really good at baseball, and for him to impact them, and he's impacting Middletown in a great way. So I know Middletown is very fortunate, lucky to have a guy like Andy Baker there. And again, if you would like to reach out to Coach Baker, touch base with him, pick his brain at all, again, his email is andrew.baker@fcps.org. So reach out with him an email. Let him know that he did a banging job. Let him know that he gave out some great content, gave us a little bit behind the scenes, behind the curtain look at what they do in Middletown. For those people in Maryland know, Middletown is a very rock-solid program and has been under his leadership. Follow him on Twitter at GoMHSBaseball. And again, his cell phone number is 301-606-3615. Feel free to give him a shout. Text him again. Give him a little shout out to say what a great job. Just did a phenomenal job giving out some great content for everyone. I think he made me better, and got my wheels turning and took a bunch of notes and again, want to thank Coach Baker for that opportunity. Want to thank you guys for listening. Please feel free to share. And like I said, we're just here to try to help grow this community, help grow the game, especially our area. And like we had a little bit of conversation today with Andy, was just maybe trying to get even our state, a little bit more opportunity that there is in other states. I think there's definitely a void there. We can definitely help our young men out better. They need it. And it's about growing our game in all ways. So hopefully this does fall on some good ears and saying there's an opportunity to help grow the game. And let's be sure, like Butch Chafin said, let's be guardians of this game. Thanks again for sticking with us. Thanks again to Coach Baker. And until next week, keep getting better.